Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18.2 Beta 4 and Public Beta 3 have been out for over a week and a half at this point, and iOS 18.1.1 released to the public around the same time. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 18.2 Beta 4 is out What's New video. We'll talk about the experience now that we've had time for things to process in the background, we'll see what battery life is like, and we'll see what you had to say based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 13,000 votes and 163 comments. Be sure to stick around toward the end of the video as I'll go through some of those comments and see what you had to say individually. Now, as far as new things this week, well, first, Apple actually has a bunch of sales going on. And to go along with that, they've upped their trade-in values in the United States. So if you have a product to trade in, typically an iPad or something else, you'll see we have extra credit for iPads now. You actually might get more than you thought early on. Apple's actually offering up to $555 for an iPad Pro. Of course, it varies with each model. But if you've been wanting to trade them in and get something different towards maybe an iPhone 16 Pro Max or something else, you'll be able to trade those in and get decent credits. You may be able to find better ones elsewhere, but Apple actually bumped them up for the iPad at least. Now, there were originally some screensavers that were coming out with tvOS 18.2, but it seems that not all of them are included this time around. We talked about last week how we're going to have Snoopy screensavers, but others were originally planned as well, based on Apple TV Plus movies and TV shows, but they seem to be either canceled or delayed. Apple actually changed its website to say that Snoopy screensavers were coming in late 2024. It actually used to say that Snoopy and TV and movie screensavers were coming. A Dutch blog called iCulture actually noticed the change, and it looks like they made this recently, so maybe we'll only see the Snoopy screensavers. Hopefully they'll add some of those a little bit later. Apple sent out emails recently on how you can support Product Red using Apple Pay. We used to get a bunch of Apple devices in the red color, and we no longer seem to get as many. We'd get sort of a mid-year refresh sometimes with a new red finish on the latest iPhone. I would love to see that return, but if you want to still support it, Apple's sending out emails where it says, "Pay the Apple way, support Red." Now through December 8th, Apple is donating $5 to the Global Fund for every purchase made with Apple Pay at an Apple Store, in the Apple Store app, or on apple.com. So they sent this out, but either way, if you pay this way, you should actually be able to help donate toward that fund. Now, iPhone 17 actually has a lot of news leaking already. It seems it could be getting an all-new camera design module in aluminum, with the rest of it being glass, so something completely different. And of course, we'll talk more about that in the recent weekly news updates that I have every week. But it seems it could be a much bigger change than many thought originally. So that's some exciting news. We've had sort of the same design for 4 years or so we could see a change to the camera module and much more. So I'm looking forward to see what that's like, but that's a little ways off, well, almost a year off at this point. One other thing to note is if you're in the UK, the carrier named 3 will start supporting RCS in December and notified customers via text. So if you've been wanting to use RCS with your iPhone on the latest iOS 18 updates, you'll be able to do that, and you'll get the settings and messages as well for RCS. So if you have that as your carrier, go into your apps and your settings, go down to Messages, and within Messages, scroll down until you see RCS. If you have it there, just make sure that you go into it and enable it. Then you can text people using RCS if they're on Android, and you'll have higher quality images and videos. Now, there's a new feature that was updated recently if you have the YouTube app. If you're using that, you can now go into your photos, and when you go to maybe edit a video and then share it, like this one I shared to Shorts a little while ago, you can now go through your apps and you'll be able to share directly to YouTube. They've since updated it so you could share to TikTok and Instagram, but now YouTube's updated it enough so you can share directly from your photos directly onto YouTube and get that video uploaded. So that's something that's new that you'll need to update YouTube for, but it's available now. Now, as far as iOS 18.2, I wanted to cover one thing, as many people seem to think that it's only about Apple Intelligence, but the new Mail app should be coming to all phones. And you'll see on the iPhone 11, if we go into Mail, we have the all-new Mail app. So we have Primary and all the different things for shopping or all Mail. You can get rid of it, of course, if you don't like this overall look, but it is coming even if you don't have Apple Intelligence. However, most features are sort of geared towards Apple Intelligence, and that will be a big focus for Apple going forward. However, there are still a few here and there, as many people have said, well, why should I update if I don't have something that supports Apple Intelligence, or maybe I'm in the EU and it's not available yet. But there are a lot of different changes that are actually at present as well. So I'll cover those separately when we go over what's new, but the big changes, of course, with iOS 18.2 are for Apple Intelligence, such as ChatGPT directly into Siri, so we could ask it maybe for a pizza recipe. Show me a recipe for pizza using ChatGPT. And it says working with ChatGPT. It takes just a moment and then returns your results. So you can use it with ChatGPT if you'd like, along with images, and here's a simple recipe. So we do get things like that, although you could just use the ChatGPT app to do the exact same thing. Of course, we have Image Playground and Genmoji, and these are a little bit odd. I've played around with this more and more, and it's okay, but it's just not great. It's something that's very cartoony, and this was supposed to be on a golf green, sort of winning a tournament, and it didn't really work as expected. It sort of got it, but not exactly right. So you'll see it's very different, and these are based off the same picture every single time. So definitely needs a little work there. There are some other features, but those are the bigger ones coming to basically iOS 18.2, along with the ability to use notes and have it compose something using ChatGPT as well. So in the same thing here, if we go into our Apple Intelligence options, we have describe your change and then compose. If you use compose, it uses ChatGPT. So you could compose an entire essay or maybe an outline about maybe a video or something else. So we definitely have a lot of things coming soon, along with some other features that will probably show up very soon with the next releases. So it's getting very close, and it's time that we finally see iOS 18.2. So we'll probably see that very, very soon. iOS 18.2 RC could release as soon as this coming Monday. Now, based off what we've seen in the past, it could be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We don't really know, as Apple doesn't give us a specific date, but based off of the previous release, it will most likely be Tuesday. But again, they've done Monday before, and they've also released on Wednesday, so we don't know 100%. However, I do believe we will have the final public release on the 9th, like Mac Rumors was saying. Based off the sort of break that they had for Thanksgiving in the United States this past week, it makes sense that we'll have the RC, and then on December 9th, probably the public release. Then, of course, we'll move on to iOS 18.3 Beta 1, and maybe even iOS 18.2.1 or something along those lines, or 18.1.2. We don't really know, but Apple did sort of do that same sort of release last year with iOS 17. When it comes to the overall experience, well, iOS 17.7.2 seems to be holding out very well for a lot of people as an alternative to iOS 18. Now, the overall iOS 18.1.1 experience seems to be generally pretty good. Battery life is improving for many people. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. CarPlay is still an issue for some. It doesn't seem to be a problem for everyone. For example, my daughter has a Toyota. There's no issue there with wireless CarPlay, but I have heard of people having it disconnect depending on the vehicle they're using. So it's hard to say if it's iPhone or if it's the vehicle or somewhere in between, maybe some compatibility issue. Also, others have said there's issues with photos with horizontal lines in them, and others have had issues sending contacts via text. So if you're sending a contact using text messages, that could be an issue for some, but overall, it seems to be very stable and pretty good. When it comes to iOS 18.2 Beta 4, generally it's pretty good. My complaint is typically battery life, but the stuttering's been fixed, as I mentioned before, but we do tend to see a few more bugs this time around. Now, some people with iPad have said that if you go into the control center and you place a shortcut to open an app, when you reboot the device, it typically disappears and won't come back. You'll have to re-add it. I actually wasn't able to duplicate this on this iPad. I have the Amazon app set to a shortcut, and it opens every time, and then when I go to reboot the device, it's still here. So thankfully I'm not seeing this, but it seems like a lot of people are. One issue I am seeing, though, has to do with mail. While it does show the actual notification count numbers here, this count is incorrect, and also when I delete a bunch of email, they show back up a day or two later sometimes. I'll see email that I've already gone through or replied to, and they just show back up. So they sort of flag themselves as being unread. I'm not sure exactly why, but it definitely shows back up for me. Also, some people are unable to update their apps. They're just not able to do it. Sometimes a reboot helps this, though. Also, standby mode is not working for some people. So if maybe you're plugged in, you do have to be plugged in, have it sort of motionless and locked. So if we try that, we'll see if it goes into standby mode. There it goes. Some people are not able to get this to show up, even with it turned on. You can try turning it off, turning it back on, but it does seem to work for me, but not everybody is able to get that to work this time around. Also, there's some issues with Face ID. I'm hearing from a lot of people it's a little bit slow. So if we go in, you'll see it unlocks fine for me, but some people are definitely seeing it slow down. And also there's lower sound volume for some when using AirPods. So if you're using AirPods, for whatever reason, it seems to be a lower volume, even if they haven't changed any settings or turned on the settings to limit the volume. Those touch bugs are still present even with iOS 18.1.1. The iPhone 15 Pro wallpaper is still gone. The remote app is showing up in the control center for some, and also AirDrop isn't working great all the time. You can also create a picture using ChatGPT and messages, but it doesn't work properly, but that's a known bug. When it comes to battery life, well, we'll take a look at iOS 18.1.1 first, as it seems to be pretty decent. Thanks to Cameron for sending this in on an iPhone 16 Pro Max with 100% battery health, and you'll see he had 7 hours and 57 minutes of screen active time, 22 minutes of screen idle time, and he's down to, well, about 25% or so. So in general, it's doing very good, much better than it was a week or so ago. It finished processing in the background. We no longer have the message here, and it's definitely improved quite a bit. When it comes to iOS 18.2 Beta 4 or Public Beta 3, that's a different story. You'll see today I'm down to 37%. I haven't charged it at all today. I traveled a bit today. And if we go to battery health, I'm at 100% still with 60 cycles. You can see more details here with coconut battery. And if we take a look here, we'll go to the last 10 days. Today I had 2 hours and 52 minutes of screen active time, 9 hours and 10 minutes of screen idle time. And again, I'm down to 37%. Pretty terrible battery life. Yesterday, just 1 hour and 39 minutes using about 30 to 40% of my battery. It hasn't been great overall. The best is 3 hours and 51 minutes using about 75%. So it definitely could use an improvement here. And you'll see I did use FaceTime quite a bit that day, but either way, it's pretty poor in general. So hopefully that improves. It should definitely be a lot better like it is on iOS 18.1.1. When it comes to performance, thankfully that hasn't changed over the past week or so. Things are still nice and fast. They're smooth when it comes to ProMotion, scrolling and everything else, opening apps. The stuttering is gone. Most people are saying it's a very good experience. So that really hasn't changed. It hasn't degraded, and it hasn't gotten hot at all. For me, the phone stays nice and cool despite it having pretty terrible battery life. Let me show you that quick with the thermal camera like we do weekly. On the iPhone 16 Pro Max with iOS 18.2 Beta 4 or Public Beta 3, we're at about almost 32 degrees Celsius, 31.9. And on the 16 Pro Max with iOS 18.1.1, we're at about 28.5 degrees Celsius. So definitely a little bit cooler on that release, but either way, I've been holding this one in my hand, which heats it up just that little bit. As far as benchmarks go, on the far left, we have the iPhone 16 Pro Max running iOS 18.1.1. These are the same scores as last week. I didn't rerun that here. And then we have the iPhone 11 and 16 Pro Max running iOS 18.2 Beta 4 or Public Beta 3. In general, the scores are pretty high overall, not as good as last week or a week or so ago, but in general, within the margin of error, it's very good overall. I think both of these are doing quite well. No issues here, especially on the iPhone 11. It seems to be one of the higher scores. So pretty good overall. Again, it seems to improve, and hopefully with the release candidate or RC, it gets even better. Now let's go ahead and see what you had to say about the experience with your comments. Simon Drew 8641 said, 17.7.2 still operating without bugs on iPhone 11. I'm not updating anytime soon as this version is so stable. Persistent Scummy 8462 said, 13 Pro Max running iOS 18.1.1. Very great to me. No bugs. Battery stable enough to last the day if I don't play COD Mobile, but overly all is well. Josh Klein 6450 said, iPhone 16 Pro Max on 18.1.1, and touch issues are extremely frustrating to say the least. Press is either not responding, multiple attempts to register a single touch regardless of app, not just with the keyboard but in general, and also very inaccurate and unreliable scrolling no matter where I am on the phone. Have tried with screen protector both on and off, same issue persists. That's an Arnar said, and hopefully I'm saying that properly, 15 Pro Max, iOS 18.1.1, and battery life has been great again. I noticed one little issue where the status bar icons would be misaligned to the edge of the screen. Anyone else notice the same? Quad Rider Honda said, I've been using iOS 18.1.1 over a week now, and battery is okay, but could be better. I don't have any issues. It's been snappy and smooth using an iPhone 16 Pro Max. Hopefully 18.2 is a lot better. Fairy6890 said, iOS 18.2 Beta 4 on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. The experience is okay, battery life is also not bad, but there's a minor bug that I think is annoying. The unlock speed of Face ID is much slower than before. It happens when I unlock my phone and app, even when I'm making payments. A reboot can solve this problem for a while. Does anyone else have the same experience as me? I hope Apple will solve it in the RC. Antonio Fritas 4347, iOS 18.2 Beta 4 is holding up well for me on my iPhone XR. So far, I've had no battery issues or crashing on the home screen, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next update soon. Lokman Syed said, iOS 18.2 Beta 4 on my iPhone 16 Pro Max has been the best beta that I ever had. I only experienced a few minor bugs and few lags. The battery life has been outstanding compared to Beta 1 to Beta 3. I also have another 16 Pro Max running iOS 18.1.1. The battery life is absolutely amazing, even compared to iOS 17.7, really surprised. I only had a few bugs, but in general, both of these are great, and I think Apple has done a great job resolving bugs and issues with the software. As far as storage goes, we'll see if it's improved at all on this particular update, so we'll go to General, iPhone Storage. Give it just a moment here. If we scroll down in storage, you'll see the overall iOS size is 18.27 gigabytes. System data can go up and down. When I first opened this, it was around 4 or 5 gigabytes. It jumped up to around 12 gigabytes. It will go back down as needed. You can see that description here. So I would really sort of ignore this unless it's taking up so much data that you can't install or update apps. But iOS is taking up a fair amount of storage here at 11.99 gigabytes. So that's everything with iOS 18.2 Beta 4, Public Beta 3, and iOS 18.1.1. I can't wait to have the final update. Hopefully they fix this Mail app, as that's a real big problem right now, to the point where I may need to switch Mail apps, as it seems to be so unstable or just not work properly with Mail showing up again, as I mentioned before, or just sort of the overall notification count not working properly. Of course, if you're having issues, be sure to report them in the feedback app. If you are on the beta, that definitely will help out. And in general, I think it's a good release, and hopefully it's much better than we expect, with a few surprises here and there. But let me know your overall experience in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.